Today we're going to be looking at animated text and typography, sort of a lyric style music video, I guess you could call it. And you can use any particular tune you want. The one I'm working off is Work by Masters at Work. It's the Stanton Warriors remix. I found it on an old Essential mix from 2001. I haven't really been able to find it anywhere else, but either way, it's quite upbeat, maybe a bit manic, but I really like the lyrics. Let's have a quick look.
Oh, so you're the man who come to sweep my yard, the yard man. I like that broomstick you're carrying. Yes, baby, I like it. I want you to take your broom and sweep my yard. You better brush it good, or we go fall apart. Don't give me no shortcut thing. You have all day and night. I have to satisfy, so you better do it right. What you waiting for? Put your back in it. Just a little more. Throw your waist in it now. Tell your body you're ten. Work it hard and long. When you finish that, I want you go downtown. Go down, go down, go down. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Go down, go down, go down, go down. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Now this is more of a workflow style tutorial. I did spend several hours at this. It's pretty simple. It's just a case of lining up the elements with the voiceover and just animating the text in and out. And motion blur, you can turn it on, turn it off. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I need to sweep my yard and leave it out. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's have a look. We're starting off in Premiere. I've got the track here on the timeline. Okay, the reason I'm choosing Premiere for this is mainly I find it easier to do it in Premiere to begin with. There's nothing to stop you doing this in After Effects. We'll go through that as well. But for now, this is how you would do it in Premiere. So this is how we add some markers to a clip in Premiere, which will then bring into After Effects. So we start playing it, and I will hit M on the keyboard. And if I just do it now, it adds a marker up here. If I select the clip, it'll put a marker on it there. For now, that's not what I want. The markers will be little text clues as to what is said and where, because it's quite a busy waveform there. Generally, when you're doing an explainer video, you'll have the audio, the voiceover will be obviously completely separate and you will be able to see it, but we're just going to go through it now without selecting anything on the timeline. I'm just going to play it and hit M on the keyboard. And as it goes, when there's key bits of audio, I'll hit M and then I'll come back and refine it and line it up a little better and write the text that I need. So there we go. I'm now going to start editing the markers. So ultimately, we right click on them and go into edit marker. So this one is O. And the next one is, so U is the man who is come to sweep me yard. My Irish accent doesn't really do this awesome Jamaican patois any justice whatsoever. Now, I've set up a keyboard shortcut for myself, which you can do by going into Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts. So I've set up a keyboard shortcut for myself for the Edit Marker command. Edit Marker. And generally there's nothing there, but when I hit Control, Alt, Shift and M because I'm using Windows, I can then go and edit these markers instead of right clicking over and over. So if you find you're using the same command over and over, this is something that you should definitely be doing to speed up your workflow. And when I'm editing one marker, I can just hit next to go to the next one. And I've got the lyrics off to the side there. And of course you can copy and paste the lyrics or script for that matter if you got it. Now these markers aren't exact. Sometimes it's just a little off. It can sometimes happen, if you have an edit bang on the voiceover, that exactness can often look a little weird. Again, you got to play it by ear and eye. That's how I'm happy with it. So it's about a minute. It's actually quite long for something like this. I'm going to just work on it for the first 15 seconds. With the timeline selected, Control M, and I've already set up that I want the waveform audio. It's gone into my audio folder, same place every time. Metadata is the important one. I want them embedded in the output file. There's a few others. I create sidecar file, which would be like a tiny little text file beside your export. Minimum required, blah, 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 blah. Embed and output file is what you need. Include markers. My preset is based on, well, it's just a handful there, but you could have it set already as an MP4. In my case, I want it as a WAV. And that's it. So just hit export and drag it into After Effects. Okay, so you don't want to use Premiere to put the markers onto your clips? That's fine. There's two ways you can do it in After Effects. The first way is to use asterisk on the numerical keypad, which is usually quite handy when you're playing an entire clip. And you just hit that and your marker will appear on the clip itself, or if it's not selected, if nothing's selected, it'll go up onto the timeline bar. Another option is to go over here to this button on the right of the far right of the timeline, just by the work area bar, and you can either click and drag, or you can just hit the button and the markers will be placed in at that point in time. You can go into any marker by right clicking on it. You're going to be accurate, get right in there, settings, and change the text to something appropriate. And that's really it. I just prefer using it in Premiere. I think it's just because it plays back everything that bit smoother. That's really the only reason for me. But your experience may vary. Okay, so I've imported my audio into After Effects. Drag it down to the Create New Comp button, and there's all my markers. Okay, if I hit LL on the keyboard, it'll let me see the waveform. If I hold down Shift and L, it'll bring up the levels. So sometimes you can get audio that's fairly quiet, and you can make it a bit louder. This is going to be bonkers, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. All right. So now we start typing. Generally, the workflow with something like this is you type it up and make sure it's kind of in time with the audio, and then you can go back and finesse it. So off we go. So we select the clip, hit Option or Alt and open square bracket to change the in point, and Option or Alt close square bracket to change the out point. So at this point, I'm going to start tidying up my text and making it a bit better. It really is a gradual process. I'll start by selecting them all and just making sure that they're centrally aligned and that the anchor point is in the middle. This free script that I got by aescripts.com. That's just going through all of them. That's good. And I hit P on the keyboard and change that to 960 and 540, which will be center in the 1080p comp. All right, so character-wise, they're all different. Let's just try 96. Some of them will be a lot bigger, but it's a good general size to start with. Alright, so when it comes to actually designing this kind of work, well, it's largely down to taste. So I've gone through all my text layers and started adding a bit of emphasis to key phrases, trying to line them up, have them all kind of basically in rectangular blocks of text, not all of them, many of them, and make a couple of neat little jump cuts between certain areas. Usually with something like this, you'll block it out and then you'll come back to it and finesse it. And say with this, all I'm doing is adding track mats into the text. So the words da and man will appear from behind yard invisibly. So it's a very simple process, just using the alpha channel of another layer to animate it in. And then most of these kind of things is about lining up the text neatly. That's what it is. It's a typographic animation, so we need the text to be visually appealing, neat and tidy. Not trying to avoid using Comic Sans, of course. And there I'm using a broom, because the tune mentions broomsticks quite a lot, and did originally have a brush, swapped it out for a broom, and used that to wipe the text in and out, and add some other effects such as reptile and a couple of other bits and pieces. And again, it's just you go through it and you add effects and wipes and little elements such as a sun in this case, and then a moon, because the lyrics are you have all day and night, then animate them in at the appropriate points, and then we go and line up the text correctly and make sure it all comes in a kind of a cool way. So after several hours of animating type and text and whatever, this is what I've come up with. Just animate the text in with photo over brush and using a couple of track mats and masking in the text here and there, using the brush as a device, a couple of circular wipes, quick match cut, a bit of camera shake, using the reptile effect on a couple of text words in the background and some crash zooms. It looks pretty manic, kind of makes a bit more sense when you hear it, I suppose. And again, something like this, you can spend a long time at it, just finessing and ultimately what you're trying to do is just emphasize key words at key points, and try to make it as visually appealing as you can. I've also added some paper textures, one on the top and one on the bottom. So this one, old paper, it's set to overlay, and another one called crumpled paper, and it's also set to overlay, going over the background grid, which I also threw in as well. And it's little things like that just add a bit of depth to a design. So you can spend as long as you like putting in as much detail as you want, but again, a lot of it is just down to taste. So sometimes you'll see lyric videos or explainers where they're super simple. All right, hopefully you folks learned something, and look forward to seeing you again in the next one.